Okay, I think we're live at this point. What is up, YouTube? Welcome to I don't know what I'm doing Tuesday with Chris Biggs and Haley from Oddball Aquatics. Somebody please let me know if the audio is okay. And then also we're going to talk about, what are we going to talk about, Biggs? Projects or pets? You want to introduce yourself, Biggs? Not that everybody doesn't know who you are already.
People don't want to know who I am.
Oh, they do. I talked to some people. They told me some things. They were like, show me who Chris Biggs really is.
It's about as real as I'm going to ever be. Completely unprepared, unrehearsed. Here we go.
Yeah, I got Biggs on the fly at his hotel room, just jumping out of a car, running into his hotel room, like, I got to be on this thing. So,
the only way I can really do these live feeds with any success, especially if I'm going to be with guests, is because my internet connection at the farm at home is terrible. So whenever I'm on the road, like tomorrow night, I'm live tomorrow night on just my feed, and I have guests. That's the only way I can do it.
Good luck. Good luck to you. I said, I try to do things. It doesn't always work. I somehow set this up with two cameras. See this? I got a second camera with the shrimps. I thought that was cool.
Far beyond my skill set.
I didn't know. The only reason I did it was for the audio. You'll
notice I'm a man, and I have no skills in this whatsoever.
You have some skills. I don't know if they're technical.
I could build a farm fence.
Hey, you got a fuzzy cow. That's my favorite thing about you, is you have a fuzzy cow. I find that amazingly hilarious.
The absolute favorite thing about me is I have a fuzzy cow.
I'm just saying, it's amazing.
Two fuzzy cows.
Well, I like the first one the best. That's a really nice fuzzy cow.
Yeah.
Anyways, so what do you keep, Biggs? Projects or pets?
Well, the animals are more the pets to me. Like the farm animals, the dogs and that sort of stuff. Those I would consider the pets. Fish, honestly, have never really been, I've never viewed fish as pets to me. I honestly haven't. My background with primarily the botanical interests and then the ichthyology as a secondary. Mine's always been very, very science-based. And with fish, ever since I was little, I've always been driven that I view every single fish that I keep as a puzzle. And my goal as an aquarist is to figure out the pieces of that puzzle. So,
which is what, breeding them or just
primarily breeding? I call it successful reproduction or replication or reproduction in captivity. And I have what I call similar to what Brazil does. I have a positive list. And the positive list or target list is the fish that I have on my mental list that I want to work with that I think can be bred. I've had several fish that I've bred that, like you're working with your rope fish and the different bashirs or bikers. I have several fish like that I've had good success in breeding over the years. Some that I'm told have never been bred in captivity, which I think is a total lie. Just because
reported, never been reported.
Exactly. Just because it's not on Facebook doesn't mean it didn't happen. Just because you have a YouTube video about it doesn't mean it didn't happen, But silver arowanas, more species of piranhas, more species of large silver dollar type characins. These are all fish that are on my target list or positive list. But I literally work with the fish, and once I crack that fish, I usually get rid of it fairly quickly and move on to the next because I don't have unlimited tank space, especially at the place where I'm at now. I have a very, very small fish room, and I'm kind of thankful for it because it's easy to maintain with my constant traveling schedule, be it for work, where I am right now. I'm away from work. I'm 6 hours drive from my family home. And I'm here for 3/4 of a week, and then I drive back and I do war changes and so forth and take care of the isopods on the weekend. And
I gotta get a piece of tape. Hang on a second. Dang it. I'm so redneck. I'm so sorry for my redneckness.
So how many people do you have in the house tonight?
How many? I don't know. I didn't even look. Hang on. I'm such a bad YouTuber. Oh, this thing's broken. Okay. Now it's not broken. I fixed it. Don't worry.
It's new.
Thank God. It's not. I had to put a thing up because I don't know. I'm not a good YouTuber. Okay. How many people are here? Like 50? What's up, people? We haven't said hi to anybody in the chat, but that's okay.
Nobody's said there's no comments in the chat.
You're not seeing the chat?
I don't see anything in the chat.
There's like a whole bunch of chat, Biggs. There's like chat for days.
Yeah, okay. I excel at stuff.
He'll figure it out. It's okay. Here's my problem. I keep oddball fish, right? So like the rope fish and the bashirs and all of that, right? So I get into these projects that take years.
Yep.
And part of the time I'm just studying the fish. Hang on. There we go. Part of the time I'm just studying the fish, trying to figure out like what the move is to try and breed them.
Well, you also go to a few more extremes than an average aquarist. Your rope fish setup is not something anybody's going to have in their average family home.
No.
I kids' pool and fill mud all around it and jungle in my house. And
yeah, it's a bit of a
I told you, and I did that video on it long before I even met you, that you inspire people like me. It's people like you that are my driving force that keep me going and doing the stuff that I want to do. Anybody with an aquarium in 75 gallons or size can breed cichlids.
Right.
And if you're focused, anybody can breed Coreodoros. If you're focused, most of the smaller plecos, any of the ancestris, particularly the hypancistris, those are all breedable fish. Yeah. Rainbows, if you're going to be focused, you got to be focused if you're going to breed rainbows. They'll all give you eggs every single day, but raising the absolutely minuscule fry is challenging unless you're prepared to do it.
I don't know. That depends on the rainbow.
Yeah.
Some of them you can community breed in a filterless tank with nothing in whatever.
All your saprinid, your barbs, and your danios and such, they all breed in exactly the same fashion. It's just, the size of the fish and how big the fry are and how you're going to breed them. Again, in like the type of aquarium type styles that you do in these large natural fully aquascape, lots of live plants, what like Lucas does and stuff like that, those type of fish thrive in those environments. And you fry everywhere all the time, right? And that's the way to do it. But in those type of environments, you'd be challenged breeding other stuff.
Yeah.
You go and throw a pair of cichlids in the mix in that tank, and all of a sudden that harmony is just out the window.
I swear, any fish I get, if it gets in here and it like takes a bite out of a plant, I'm like, dude, no, out, get out. I can't do it. But here's my problem. So I end up with these oddballs, right? And I get these fish just so that I can study them, like, because maybe they have something similar to a different fish, whatever. But I end up with pets, right? Especially because I have a 5-year-old. So, like, I have this blue Galaris up here, right? Just because, like, why? Why do I have I don't do killifish.
It's an awesome killie, though. It's an absolute awesome killifish.
He's beautiful. He killed his mate. So now I don't have I got a pair because I was like, okay, I'll breed them. That'll make it, within my I don't keep anything I don't breed rule. And then he killed the female, and now I just have this male blue Galaris chilling up here. And I'm like, okay, that's a pet now.
Do you know the location?
No.
It's just the regular.
I know that he won the Killy Carnival in last year. He was the first place winner at the Killy Carnival.
What's that? Where's that?
South Bend,
Indiana. Okay. Well, the nice thing about that particular killie, it's a Fungula panchax, and the group of Fungula panchax killies are often called switch spawners. So you have your Nothabranchius and your I knew all the new South American New World stuff used to be formerly Cinelebius, and that's all been revised. Those are all peat spawners. They're bottom spawners. They're true annuals. Mm-hmm. Those are all fish, be it from Africa, Asia, or South America, fish that their waterway is going to completely desiccate and dry up, and they have to be able to successfully reproduce to provide for that next generation, even though they're not going to be there when the babies come. Or a lot of the African stuff, like the Aphysemians and then the Asian Epiplades, those are all through plant spawners. But the Fungula panchax is a really neat group because they're switch spawners, and they could spawn in your planted community tanks, or you could spawn a lot of them in the same way you do true annuals, in a tank full of peat bottom, which is messy, or you can use a big pickle jar or a little Rubbermaid or something like that. Take a butter container and wash it, and then cut a little hole in the lid and put some.
Oh yeah, I've seen all those killie guys.
Sink it down, and then you could harvest that peat every 3 weeks or a month and put it away and date it. And where each species has its own time period for the diapause to happen, for the amount of time that the babies have to be in stasis before you can add the water to it. But I think it's a great fish.
That's why I don't do killies. all that you
hardcore.
just said right there, all the things you just said, that's why I don't do Killies. But then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna build a pond in my house, so whatever.
I went when I kind of got back into fish hardcore again, after the move and after we were kind of settled for a year or so. I thought, okay, I need to get back into fish, and my first foray was going back into killifish. And it was the dumbest move I'd done in years.
It's a rabbit hole.
You can't have so one pair of killies. You need to have 20, 30 pairs of killies.
Yeah.
You have to hatch brine shrimp. You have to have live foods available because most of them don't. Some may live off of the of prepared foods, but they're not going to thrive. So you have to make live foods, and you have to do it almost daily if you're hatching live brine shrimp and stuff like that. And with my traveling schedule, it was an absolute nightmare. So I had hundreds of species. I had almost 200 tanks at that time. I got everything all custom made to fit these huge racks, and it was great. I was traveling to shows all over the Midwest or Mideast and getting killies shipped to me all the time because I couldn't access a lot in Canada. And it ended up being all the work was being done by my wife. I'd come home every week like a hero, do the water changes, 200 tanks, all in 3-gallon to 5-gallon size. I could do 200 tanks in an hour. Was nothing, right? But my wife diligently every single day was hand feeding and then setting up the hatchers and stuff. I said, this is crazy. She
Woman
never
is a saint.
But I eventually said, this is crazy. I can't do this. This is not fair to her.
Yeah, that woman's a saint. I had to teach my husband how to feed my fish because of traveling last year. That was fun. I got OCD. It's not good. Like he did a good job for like normal, but like I have OCD, so
I used to prepare little Ziploc bags of prepared foods and tape them on tanks. And depending on where they were taped on the tank is where you fed the tank because I didn't want it to go across the tank and into the skimmer or things like that.
Yeah.
And each had its own rules. And but my wife used to work in the industry, so she's great.
I have a dry erase marker, and I literally write the instructions on the tank with arrows and like numbers, and it's a whole thing. It's not good for him, but he manages. It's all right.
Did you ever get any further details on that knife fish that you showed me?
Yeah, he's possibly can get huge, but I might be able to get more.
That's
so I was thinking about. So I have a 150-gallon tank that I'm going to be setting up for the Bashirs, but I'm also thinking if I'm going to set up 150, why wouldn't I set up 2 and just try to breed, or like 5, but like, and see, this is what happens with oddballs. Like I've got these weird gobies I'm working on, but I can't really do anything with them right now because I'm waiting on the tank space. It's like a whole thing, and I end up with like half-finished projects everywhere and a cat that won't leave me alone.
I saw somebody's live feed the other day. Stenfort? I can't pronounce it.
Stenfort?
Yeah.
Bobbo? Bobbert?
He was shutting down a lot of his stuff. Candy was there. She was the moderator.
She's everywhere.
And
Mod God.
putting down his selling side.
Yeah.
Applaud him for it because I only thought Canada was having a problem accessing fish. You guys can't get it too, but you guys normally have access to stuff that we will never ever see up there.
All of our imports are getting delayed. So I work at Aquatic Arts.
Yeah.
And we import fish, and all of our imports are getting delayed by like 12 hours or like it's like one extra day basically that they're in shipment, which is horrible on an international shipment. It's like
one more reason to get into killies. You can live killies in little breather bags across the country, across the globe. They could get lost in the mail for a week. They'll be fine.
I'm not right, but like one more reason to get into breeding fish in our country and in our home breeders, because we're not always gonna possibly have access to all of these fish. Like,
yeah, it's the constant rape of the wildlife, and it's always for profit, right?
Right. Well, and it's going to get ridiculously crazy expensive because of the shipping. Like,
people used to ask me years ago, well, have you ever played with marine? Well, I played with marine when I worked at stores. Have I ever kept them myself? Honestly, no. I don't think I've ever kept a saltwater tank at home.
It's so expensive.
But it had nothing to do with that. It was just more the ethical side for me at the time. Growing up in the I was born in 70. I'm an old dude. So working in the pet stores all throughout the 80s, going into the 90s, they were constantly just hauling the fish out of the wild, and nobody at any point in time said, hey, this is not going to be an infinite supply. Maybe we should look at breeding these things. And it's only been in the past 20 or so years that they've been doing clownfish and a bunch of other stuff. And now that I see in Hawaii, they're doing some of the different tangs and stuff.
Right.
And doing mandarin gobies. But even mandarin gobies, the fact that they're replicating them in captivity is great, that they're not harvesting them from the wild. But the problem being is all the wild ones and the ones in captivity are extremely challenging to feed. So it doesn't matter if you're getting captive bred or not. If you don't have that natural food source that they need in the wild, and Sandy Moore told me what it was. Again, I'm not a salt guy, but mandarin gobies and that whole group of fish, the dragon, they need a very specific diet, and I can't remember what it was, and it was very challenging to ever provide in captivity. So even Sandy at Seagrist will not touch that fish, even though it's captive bred, because she says it's a death sentence. I got to respect that, right?
Right?
Yep.
We just need to, I don't know.
Are we missing
I need to build a Faraday cage. I don't know. We probably need to do some Q&A. That'd be a good idea. This cat is driving me nuts. Okay. Come on, cat. Yeah, I don't do salt because that's a lot of work.
I'm just looking through all your comments, see if I missed anybody. Everybody's just saying hi to everybody.
Yeah, hello. Hello.
You got some Australians in here. You allow those?
Oh, I love my Aussies. Yeah, I love my Aussies. They're fantastic. They eat Vegemite. I can't get down with that, but yeah.
God awful mud paste.
Yeah, I can't. It's so bad. No, my sister went to Australia when we were kids. She got to do everything, and I didn't get to do anything. But they made them eat Vegemite before they went, just to experience it, and they made the families do it too. And I was like, I'm not going to Australia. Why do I have to eat this? This is not peanut butter. They're like, it's like peanut butter. I'm like, it's not.
It's such a weird country. We're going to totally derail your chat here. We're just going to bash Australia I did.
It just happened. I love the Aussies. Adele, I love you. You're so fantastic. No, but they have the green whistle. Have you seen the green whistle? They have the green whistle.
No idea what that is.
It's like a pain medication they give first responders have it, and it just makes you crazy. The videos of people they break their leg on the beach, and then they're like, here's the green whistle, and then the people are like, I'm driving an airplane. it's real good. Well, we don't have that here.
I love it. In the whole country, other than the indigenous peoples, the rest of it was all populated by it was a British penal colony.
Yeah.
So all the Australians, all the Caucasian Australians are all descendants of prisoners.
I'm a fan, man. I don't know. I find them. I love the accent. Yeah.
Well, you go watch my Australia with Love video. You'll hear a horrible version of a non-Australian pretending to do an Australian accent. It was.
I can't do the accent, but I can sing some of the songs. And I had a Vanga Boys CD, so that's got to get me somewhere. I don't know. I listened to it.
Adele's probably left the conversation now. She doesn't want any part of that.
No, she loves me. I love Adele. She's fantastic.
Everything.
So, who's got pets and/or projects at home that they got questions about? Because we got maybe answers. Somebody will have an answer. We'll find an answer. Right, Biggs?
Yeah. Have you ever worked, you were saying you wanted to work with the different knife fish? The only one I've ever bred was the clown knife fish.
You bred clown knives?
The big clown knives. Yeah, they get about 2 feet. But
bit me.
They're no longer allowed out of India. They are a common food fish in India, and because they're considered a food fish, they no longer export them. Same with the green chromide, Suritensis. They won't export it live out of India. Now, thankfully, both of those fish are farmed in Indonesia in large numbers. But to breed the Indian clownfish, the large clown knife, and I'm sure the royal would be the same. I can't speak about the African ones, but honestly, the physiology of the way they work is very similar, but they need an accident to happen. You just crank the water temperature as if it's like the river's drying up, and crank it up to 100, 110, almost boil the water, and they'll breed like cichlids. They will.
What's weird? Okay, so listen to this. My Bashirs, right, had been breeding every day, every other day, whatever. And I didn't think anything of it. I know I don't have a thermometer in that tank. I don't ever check the temperature. I just know it's warm. Like, I usually keep all my tanks around 82, so I don't even really pay that much attention. I checked it the other day, and it was at like, 93, something like that. I was like, oh, maybe that's a little too high. So I turned the temperature down, and they stopped spawning.
Yep. No, they need an accent. They spawn very seasonally at a certain time of year when the water's about to dry up for some reason. But in the areas where they live, I think they can go over land, or their bodies of water don't completely dry up like we think like happens in the Amazon. I don't know.
Yeah, it just gets super hot.
Adele says you can't get rid of me that easy.
Right? I love her. She's so
I
fantastic.
can't go driving anywhere unless she's got somebody to go with her.
She's working on it. She's gonna get there. She's gonna drive that car all by herself. Yes, she is.
I know, but a crazy ginger behind the wheel scares me enough. So I'll let her get as much experience as she needs.
Don't get the Australians started on the Canadians now. We can go straight in on you guys.
There's a comment from John Cox mentioned that he had a box of killie eggs that got misplaced when he moved. They were kept in a barn for 5 years, and most eggs hatched when he tried. And they're mostly Nothos, so that's all the African Nothobranchius species. Corthose, yeah. And some of these are like 6 months, 8 months. The longest one and one of the most fascinating ones is Nothobranchius furzeri. Furzeri is a species of fish that'll be born from an egg when the waters come. And that little egg, when it hatches, the fry will go through its entire life cycle from fry to adult, breeding, old age, and death in 6 months on average in the wild. So by the time that those eggs hatch, because the eggs need a minimum of 6 months, preferably 8, for those eggs to sit in stasis before you're going to add water to them. And the really cool thing about killies is they all have a switch in them that not all the fry will hatch in one point in time. So you can go and take that bag of peat and wait for your 8 months and then wet it. And then some of the eggs will hatch. And then you re-dry that peat. Take your fry out, put them in somewhere else, and start growing them up. And then you take that peat and you re-dry it and stave it for another month or so, and then do it again, and you'll get another hatch. That's fascinating. That's Mother Nature protecting itself. Because if for some reason, like you always see extreme weather all over the globe, right? Well, think about it from a fish perspective. How many of these fish species would be wiped off the planet if Mother Nature all of a sudden had a freak storm in Nigeria or Kenya or Tanzania or wherever it was, and the puddle formed, and all the eggs hatched, and the babies came out, and then the puddle dried up, and they died. They're gone. They're wiped off the face of the earth, right? So I think that's really, really cool.
No, Mother Nature's way smarter than that. That's why I don't ever worry about my aquariums or do anything like rash. Because I'm like, no, it's not necessary.
Wally's
Mother Nature's weird.
From Supreme Gecko, you only have one 10-gallon tank that you can keep. I'm taking all your others. What do you keep in your 10-gallon tank?
Ugh.
I don't know.
Ugh.
That's like that
10
question.
gallon?
Somebody says, you got 30 cookies, and Sarah comes over and takes 5 cookies. What do you got? Well, I still have 30 cookies, and Sarah's got a broken nose.
Right?
I don't know.
Technically, I've got less cookies because I ate 3 while I was breaking her nose, but that's fine.
I don't know if I
can I have a 40-gallon instead of a 10-gallon? Because I'm going to say rope fish, but I don't want to put it in a 10-gallon.
I don't think I could ever keep one. If I only, like right now, the fish room that I used to have at my old place, everybody referred to it as the lab. And I could fully pressurize the room. I could set it up to change to kind of falsify the barometric pressure change that would simulate a rainstorm impending. And I could breed all my Coreodorus like clockwork and different things that are seasonal spawners like that. So I'd be going away and I could change the kind of the pressure of the room a little bit. And then all of a sudden this stuff would all happen. But that was years ago. And I had like 4,000 gallons of water percolating in sizes from like 2 gallons all the way up to a 750. And I could do almost anything. I would use reverse osmosis water so I could manufacture my water in any way or shape or form that I wanted it to be. You can change the water chemistry using reverse osmosis. It's a perfect water source. So no matter what I wanted to set my challenge on, I could. But you know what changed all that?
You moved?
Children.
What?
Children.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Children apparently take away a lot of your free time.
All of it?
All of it. My kids are at the age now. My eldest is 20, or she's 20. And then they range down to 15, almost 16, and then they go down from there. And then my youngest is just turned 4, and she's really starting to get that interest. You see a lot of videos that I have Paisley with me doing.
Yeah, she's so cute.
So I'm actually loving it at this stage. But that whole right up before that, when she's little, it's a kind of a full-time job, and I'm definitely not.
Kinda.
In case my wife is watching this, I'm definitely in no way, shape, or form saying that it was a full-time job for me. She
Typical
took
dude.
99.9% of everything. My 1% was like the person coming at the end of an 8-hour journey of a car ride and saying, "Hey, you want me to drive? Yeah, why don't you just kick it in the driveway for me?"
Mm-hmm.
That was me.
Oh. Yeah. I'm the other side of that coin. Thanks very much. However, my husband actually stayed home and took care of our kid because I had to go back to work because I do a lot of work.
Steve, the biologist, asked, does the Mataquera study ichthyology for a living or on the side as a hobby? Well, I'll give you a bit of background on that, Stephen. I worked in the pet stores when I was little. Prior to that, I was a touring musician, and I'd spent a lot of my younger years playing music all over the world. And when I finished university and when I finished high school, mostly some of my correspondence, and then I went to university level. University level, it was very, very easy for me to go into ichthyology and all the sciences, but I really didn't want to take my passion and my hobby and turn it into my livelihood, because I viewed ichthyology in Manitoba, where I live, as studying gray minnows. You didn't hear of the scientists going and traveling to Africa and studying those fishes as much back in the day. There wasn't the funding for those things, and I really had no interest in sitting in a room full of formaldehyde with trays of dead minnows. It just didn't appeal to me. Dead minnows are for fishing. That's not for me to sit at a desk and count scales and all that sort of stuff. But I did do a lot of ichthyology study. I bet you if I really wanted to apply myself, I could have easily have gone with it, but I chose to go the botanical route instead. I never did finish my degrees or my master's in botany. I walked away from university about 6 or 8 months before everything was completed, because I really didn't want to get a job where somebody decided what I did. And then I started doing stuff a little bit more independently on my own. I have worked with a lot of different ichthyologists and scientists over the years. I have a large tattoo on my thigh of Mr. Wayne Leibel. If anybody knows anything of who he is a world-renowned scientist, and he's been my mentor for years. As a young kid, when I was working on breeding, like we talked about, if I had a fish that I could not crack, I would often freeze specimens, and then I would do full dissections at like 9 or 10. And Wayne
like you do.
Wayne Leibel, there was no internet, so Wayne Leibel would be the one that, through the American Cichlid Association, he'd be the only one that would actually sit on the phone with this crazy 9, 10, 12-year-old and lead him through a dissection because he was interested. And he showed me that passion. He knew the passion was there. So I do a lot of work with that sort of stuff. I do a lot of pathology, or I have done a lot of that stuff. I don't as much anymore. As I say, I have kids. I have 4 daughters, and we have the farm, and it takes a lot of time away from stuff. And I'm actually, when I got badgered into doing YouTube, constantly being badgered into doing YouTube, I wanted to bring more of that science side, but still with my personality through it, and being able to talk about a topic that's on a level that is really boring as hell and dry and hard to read, and bring that information down to the average hobbyist.
You're going to have to be funnier, Biggs.
No, that's not going to work.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to get any better looking either. This is what you get.
That's why I put the shrimp up there. I was like, well, at least you can look at shrimp.
I did shrimp for a while. I enjoyed doing the shrimp.
This is a project that turns into a pet. Like, I got these shrimp because I was like, okay, I'm going to try to breed XYZ color of shrimp. And then I mixed them all together. And now I just have this giant tank full of shrimp.
I'm the bad shrimp keeper, though. I went and when I was down in Florida, I've never had the opportunity to go visit Lucas. We were on the same speaking gig once, I think it was in North Carolina. And I've always wanted to get to his place, but obviously life has changed. So one day I'll get there and we'll do some stuff, have him on the channel, we'll do something cool. But when I was down south, I went to Grant Eaters, and his entire house is shrimp. And he doesn't have a label on any tank, and he knows the names of every single one of them. He knows every project he's working on. He knows exactly what he's developing. And I'm like, I'm the bad shrimp keeper, because those crystal reds, I don't know what the name of them is, but the crystal reds, the white and red striped one, that's my favorite one. That's the one I like the best. And
it's a Carradina.
But apparently I like the ugly ones. I like the ones that look like they're supposed to. They're breeding all the red out of them. They're making them all white and stuff with only one little red dot. And like, no, I don't want those. I want the junk ones. I like those better.
It's weird, the things that make shrimp like the expensive ones. Like, I don't get it. Like blue bolts. You would think with blue bolts, the more white ones would be the expensive ones. No, they want the ones that are like almost all blue. Those are the extreme blue bolts. I'm like, the white ones are the ones that look cool. Like, that's what are you doing, shrimp people? Like,
I remember years ago I went and ordered. We have one guy in 2 provinces over from me, and he's pretty well known in Canada for bringing in a lot of real top quality high end shrimp. And I ordered from him on one order. I thought these were the nice, fanciest shrimp. They were one of the most expensive ones he had, and they were real high grade green jade. And I got them, and in the bag, I was like, oh, this is so cool and everything like that. And then I landed them in a planted tank.
Never saw them again.
And I thought, this is the dumbest purchase I've ever done. They're dark green in a planted tank.
They're gone.
Well done, Biggs. That I could buy for $2 at the auction.
So funny.
Yeah.
I don't even know why I have shrimp. I get these ideas in my head, and then I start doing something, and then I just end up with a whole bunch of pets. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'll do this, but then I need another tank, and then I end up with another tank, and I don't want to end up like Lucas. I just want to breed ropefish. Like, all this started because I want to breed ropefish.
I bet you, honestly, I'm going to tell you, and I don't want you to do this intentionally, but honestly, I think the way you're going to have success with your ropefish, I think your environment that you've set up is over the top. I think it's ideal for what they need. You've gone and done all the water parameters, and you've done all the research into everything like that. You've got the environment set up for them. I think what's going to happen for you, and I said that in the video a year ago, is that you're going to have an accident. A heater's going to malfunction or something like that, and it's going to cook the tank. And we all talk about, everyone's experienced a heater that's malfunctioned and killed off all their stuff. But for you, that's when you're going to have success. Because the threshold on that fish, I think, is far higher than what we would ever anticipate it to be.
So you think I should crank the heat?
No, I'm definitely not telling you that, because if you crank the heat and it kills your fish, then you can say it was pigs. I see.
I'm not scared of it killing them. It won't kill them. I've seen them withstand some heat. That's not unacceptable. My thing is, I think it has something to do with those receptors on their face that can sense electromagnetism. It's the ampullary of Lorenzini. So it's the same thing that sharks have that lets them sense like where things are in the water.
Throw a handful of 9-volt batteries in the water. See what happens.
Well, you're so helpful, Biggs.
Hey, honestly though, you look at stuff, you look back in life, Lucas is a perfect example. He basically runs his entire fish room in an extremely natural way, and he's extremely successful at it, right? Okay. No filtration in some of his tanks, lots of plant life, low density of animal life and stuff like that, and the environments thrive. Understanding the basic premises of how nature works.
Right.
Right. And how do you think most people find out about stuff? How do you know that poison ivy is bad? How do you know that this mushroom is poisonous? Well, that means Tom and Joe were walking through the woods 100 years ago and said, "Oh, what is that? I don't know what that is. I don't know what it is." One of them made it. Joe died. Well, if the
Don't
other
eat that.
died, that means there was nobody to tell the story to say, "Hey guys, don't eat the red ones. Those are bad."
We got a $5. We got a $5 super chat. I gotta acknowledge that it's for coffee. It's from Amber because she rocks. So Big City Bettas with a $5 super chat. Amazing guest and phenomenal host. Hashtag Dragon Coffee Fund. We gotta look at that. That was pretty good. But no, yeah.
Now I notice Fish Shrimp by Rich. He's asking for a good book on breeding Coriodoros. Well, I'm going to applaud you, Fish Shrimp by Rich, because most people don't know what a book is nowadays. But I applaud you first for asking a good book on breeding. There is really one breeder of Coriodoros that is world-renowned, and he produces books, and he produces them, I believe, entirely on his own, and it's Ian Fuller out of the UK. He has several books on breeding Coriodoros. I think he's into his third or fourth volume. And his later volumes have also been involving Mr. Hans George Evers, world-renowned fish collector and expert, very world-renowned Coriodoros keeper as well from Germany. He's the guy that started Amazonas magazine years ago. So if you're looking for real good books, look for any Cory book by Ian Fuller, and you can't go wrong.
And if you don't want to read a book, you can also check out some of what Eric Bodrock is doing.
Yes,
because he's got some videos.
Eric Bodrock is Eric and Regina are extremely breeders of all sorts of stuff. They are the same type of personality as I was when I had time. I don't think they have kids. Do they have kids? I don't think they do. So they have this huge fish room, and they both have incredibly diverse interests.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, they win. Regina is the most amazing person on the planet.
Yep.
Like and Eric is the only reason that I was able to breed catfish. So be the fish. That's what Eric says. Be the fish. You got to be the fish.
So Wally said WL is the best. Well, second to Ginny Eckstein. Who is WL? I'm not sure who that is. I'll give you a little story about Ginny Eckstein. She was a very dear friend of mine years and years and years ago. This probably predates Haley. Ginny Eckstein used to write an article, I believe it was in Tropical Fish Hobbyist magazine back in the day. This is probably going back to 88 to 90. And she was the premier columnist on everything pertaining to catfish. And Ginny Eckstein, I happened to be on the phone with her at the time, and one of the catfish I was working with at the time was Clarius batrachus, which is one of the African walking cats. Mm-hmm. You know, heard about them when they introduced them to Florida, and they never thought it was a problem until they had a hurricane.
Whoops!
And the fish just left water. You got to think about that. I talk about that in one of my talks from an evolutionary or an ecological standpoint. Why if you were a fish, how bad does it got to get for you to leave? You're not evolving. You're not saying, screw this, I'm going to become a mammal now. I'm going to become a reptile. I'm going to change. No, you just go for another body of water.
No, they just went for it.
The body of water dried up. They didn't leave because the food source was depleted. So it's kind of unknown as to why they leave. But I've been working with them for over a year. I had some adults came in, and I just remember them at the store. There was two. One was extremely aggressive towards another. And I thought, well, this could be males fighting or something. But I just kept watching them constantly. And then I took that two and I isolated them and I brought them home. And I put them into one of the rooms I had the whole basement at my parents' house years ago and had several rooms of fish in different sets. And I worked with them for a long time. And me and Ginny were talking back and forth, trying to figure out what to do to crack this fish. I'd already done a lot of the stuff that I view as triggers. And triggers for breeding fish, if you want to have success in breeding fish, you got to understand what triggers are. It doesn't matter what. Yeah, well, that's one. Yeah. Like if you're talking Amazonian fish, there's not one trigger, but there's several. We think of breeding cories by doing the cold water induction. Let the water evaporate a little bit like it would in the wild. It's going to slowly drain down. It's going to get hotter, right? And all of a sudden there's going to be a massive cold influx. Well, what happens is the Andes melt. All that water rushes down the mountainside, and that's cold water. But the other factors are that water rushing down the mountainside is taking everything that's on the ground with it. So it's taking all the dead bugs, all the plant life, everything that's on that forest floor, isopods, all that stuff. It's all just being washed into the water column. So you're going to get a huge influx of live food. There's your protein source. So protein, so we talk about giving live foods or bloodworms and things like that to induce breeding. Cold water, live foods, protein influx. And then the other factors are the water chemistry changes, abrupt water chemistry changes, because all that leaf litter and detritus and all that stuff that's being washed into that water column is going to crash your pH. It's going to just lower your hardness down. And I've bred certain fish, Nanochromis transvestitis. It's one of the little dwarf West African cichlids. It's only about 3 inches in size, little tiny fish. But I remember when I had wild caught of them, the only way I was going to get them to breed was dropping the pH down to like 5. Some of the different weird little South American cichlids that you don't even see anymore. I'm trying to think of the name of the one that I kept. It wasn't Bioticus. I've never had Bioticus, but it's similar size. These little tiny, tiny dwarf cichlids. And the same thing. They lived in these little tiny isolated pockets and needed to have this incredible pH crash for them to ever be able to produce eggs. And the other factor is not just the pH crash for them to produce eggs, it's the fact that the egg membrane is very permeable and cannot tolerate any hardness whatsoever in the water column. And if you have any sort of hardness in the water, that hardness will crack through or go through the permeable membrane of the egg and destroy the fry, the developing embryo. So like not just, it's understanding those little tiny things, but it's the same pieces of the puzzle that you're trying to work and crack on your ropefish. You'll do it.
I'm going to build a Faraday cage.
Probably will.
Faraday cage. That's my next move. I got to block out the satellites and the radio waves from the 5G towers and the nonsense.
Just put a sheet of foil over top of the thing.
I'm gonna get them all little tinfoil hats. Strap them on.
What else are we missing here? I'm not even watching the chat. I really apologize, guys.
Amber's talking about Asian species need an even lower pH to spawn, like the wild bettas. I've heard her talk about that a lot. Well, the splash tetras, I can't get them to spawn. I don't know what their deal is. What's their trigger? Because I've tried lowering the pH. I've tried.
That's South American, the same thing. They're going to breed when the waters, all of a sudden the forest gets flooded. Because when the forest gets flooded, that brings the foliage that hasn't been eaten by other fish like your tompakis and stuff. Or what's the name for tompaki?
Dude, I've done all that.
Well, pacu and those type of fish, Matinus, pacu, all that stuff are going to leave any of the plant life that touches the water surface. So when all of a sudden you get this huge influx of millions and millions of gallons of water and the forest gets flooded, that's when all of a sudden there's all sorts of foliage that's available because the splash tetras have to spawn out of the water. But they also have to keep those eggs wet.
Right.
I don't know if pH is going to be as much of a factor because, well, any of the capinas you're going to be getting in are all going to be wild caught, right? Nobody's breeding them on a commercial scale, I don't think.
I don't think so. These might be private bred though because I got them at a club. I don't know. I don't know.
If you're going to do them, they don't need a big tank. They're a small.
No, I've got them, and I've hit them with the cold water change. I've hit them with the live foods. I've hit them with the pH drop, all of that, and they're just like now. I've lowered the water line. I've raised the water line. I've got plants out the water, in the water.
Yep.
I don't know what these fish want.
I have seen accounts of people that have bred them on the like by lowering the water level that they have bred on the side of the glass above the line.
Or they jump up on the lid. Regina does hers, they jump up on the lid. And I'm like, mine won't do that. They won't. I don't know what their deal is. They're lazy.
I've never bred them personally.
They're super lazy. I don't know what. And this is how I end up with a tank where I'm just staring at it going, what do you need? I put all the pieces of the puzzle together, Biggs, but there's no picture. That's not how it's supposed to work.
The fish are giving you the finger is what you're saying.
Pretty much. All my fish, except for the puffers, which I can't get the puffers to stop breeding, but I don't have enough food to keep their babies alive.
Yeah, they're raising the baby. They're extremely cannibalistic with each other, too.
Well, not only that, but like I'm having to cultivate this live food that's smaller than baby brine shrimp, and I need like a shot glass of it every like 5 hours. I'm like, how? How?
Well, you got
How do I make all that food?
you set all those tubs out on your deck and you just let them just percolate.
Yeah, but I thought about that and I tried that with some buckets, but you can't do it because literally this stuff is so stupid small that like a anything gets in there and it's going to eat all of it. It eats the culture and then you're done for. And I'm like, okay, how? How do I have a giant sterile environment to grow this photosynthesizing microorganism at a rate of like 1.5 billion every like 5 minutes?
I had there's a guy here.
What's the recipe?
If I've ever worked with black ghost knife, I never have worked with black ghost knife myself. But the problem with black ghost knife, they are bred by the thousands now in Indonesia, and they're also doing them in Florida now. The problem with black ghost knives is they need to migrate. So you will never successfully replicate a black ghost knife in captivity because you can't replicate that phase of its life cycle. Same as you'll never breed a Dorado, you'll never breed a clown loach, you'll never breed a salmon. These are fish that need to migrate to be able to do to some change for them to breed. Breeding them in captivity, though, is all 100% hormone induction. And basically they're using something from the salmon industry or the trout industry where they're taking females that are mature and they're injecting them with a hormone. Hormone induces them to produce roe, and then the males and then they're breeding them that way. And then everything is basically all lab culture. And I went down to Florida, I'm going to say about 10, 15 years ago because I was fascinated by it. And I wanted to see it firsthand, thinking it's going to be all done clinically and in a very sterile environment. This was like literally, like the worst area of downtown imaginable with attics and needles.
It's horrible and nasty.
It was terrible. I was just shocked watching it happen. But
yeah, no.
The way they're breeding them in large numbers now. It's the only way. Rosen sharks, all your red-tailed shark, your rainbow shark, all that stuff.
So those migratory fish, I was talking to somebody the other day about, I want to be able to build a system, and apparently we know that somebody at Aquatic Arts knows somebody, that thing. I know somebody that knows somebody that's working on like a levee system because I want to be able to build a system that's saltwater on one side, freshwater on the other, and has like a levee between the two tanks so that the fish can migrate back and forth. But I can't figure out how to control that center partition where there's an accessibility between the two tanks, but it still maintains the correct salinities of both sides.
Yeah.
And it's like brackish in the middle. I want to build that so bad.
That's the whole thing. That's what drives us, right?
I know I want to do it, but I can't figure it out like that whole middle section. But that would be perfect for like pipefish and amano shrimp and like nearite snails, all of those brackish water travelers that do that whole, I'm going to go to the ocean to have my babies and then we're all going to travel back to the fresh water like a little caravan. Here's ridiculousness.
Here's a random question for your group. What New World cichlid species is known to go straight out into full marine? Let's see if somebody in the chat can answer that question. There's one
bet they can.
Species that goes into full saltwater. It's like a bull shark for cichlids. Put a plasma ball on top of the pond. There you go.
I'm not allowed to have plasma balls because they fascinate me, and I want to take the ball part off and play with the middle section, and that's a bad idea. If you do that, just so you know, 10 out of 10, do not recommend, but also I can't help myself because it's a very interesting piece of machinery, and I need to take it apart. And
well, Terry's answer, he says the cichlids. Well, no, I'm saying this is an American New World cichlid. So it's somewhere between South America and Alaska. It's somewhere in the middle there, and it migrates out to full saltwater. There are other species of cichlids that do. Green chromides that we talked about earlier. They are a full brackish water one that the offspring are bred in full fresh water, and then they slowly need more and more. But they don't necessarily need full marine ever. Nobody
Mr.
knows.
Fish Sir says freshwater flounder.
Okay, let's narrow it down. This fish inhabits the areas of Guatemala and Honduras. That help?
Texas cichlid?
No, that's well, because that's not in Guatemala or Honduras. That's North American.
That's North America.
Oscars is South American. You guys want another hint?
What do we win if we play your silly game here, Biggs?
I've had clubs. I have over 500 slides for trivia talks and stuff like that because I often get asked to do banquet talks almost all the time. And I always want 2 or 3, so I always have like these random ones ready to go. Okay, I'll give you guys one more hint. And this one here, this hint is an absolute dead giveaway, but let's just pretend I think this fish studies kung fu. Somebody says he knows what it is. Not peacock bass, that's South American. Mickey M, he says he knows this.
We're gonna find out, I guess.
Double points if you put the correct vernacular name.
Black belt.
Kaler got it. That's it. That's the one.
Bob Kaler.
Exactly like every other Central American cichlid. It's extremely belligerent. It gets big, but it can live in full marine environments. Now, I don't know how scientific people want to get, but if you keep freshwater fish or you keep saltwater fish, there's not a lot of people that kind of go back and forth, right? And freshwater fish have to constantly drink water. Freshwater fish constantly drink water because the salt levels within their cells is higher than their environment. So they're constantly drinking water, and their urates or their urine is getting rid of excess salts. Saltwater fish never drink. So if you're a fish that can migrate and move between these environments, I find that fascinating.
So do those fish drink?
Which ones?
The ones that go back and forth.
I don't know. I've never sat down and had a beer with them.
Oh, well, maybe
I'm
you
not
should.
placing any judgment on them whether they drink or not.
But I want to know.
You're not
drinking.
No?
I would. I would. I would call them up and get them in here. No, that's fascinating. I find those fish that travel back and forth fascinating, but I almost find like the construction of a system in which they could live in a house and be natural. Like I'm always trying to get to natural. Like whatever I keep, I'm like, how does this live in the wild? That's what I want to achieve. So those fish, I want to achieve a system in which they can go back and forth when they want to. And I think that would be amazing.
So you're basically telling me that you would never be the candidate for breeding cichlids in a bare bottom tank with a divider.
No. Why would you do that?
I've never done that either. And
I don't get it.
I have the appeal of doing that. I always want to set up environments and I want to study how they work.
I have a God complex. I need to achieve the maximum homeostasis.
Yeah. Now, the other thing I find absolutely fascinating in the fact that I've had small tanks up to extremely large tanks, 1,200 gallons and stuff, and we're going to start building the 12-footer probably this fall, depending if we get all the farm stuff done. But is you take fish, a pair of fish, doesn't matter what it is, a pair of betas, wild betas, and you take or a group of characins or a group of barbs, a shoal of barbs or something, or a pair of cichlids, and you put them in an appropriate sized aquarium by the rules that we deem for an aquarium, 40 gallon, 70 gallon, whatever it ends up being. Then you take that same pair of fish, you observe them for a year or two, and they breed successfully and replicate and everything like that. Then you take that same group of fish and you put them into a tank 10 times that size. The behaviors will be totally different.
Yeah.
You'll see things that you never saw before. And that's the thing that drives me as well.
Yeah.
Creating these communities, not a community tank like we talk about in the aquarium industry, but a true community. It doesn't necessarily have to be biotopic. It doesn't have to be all these plants. This is what the substrate looks like from this environment, and only the fish from this 1 mile are in this tank. I don't, that is great and noble. If you want to do that, by all means, go ahead. In Canada, we couldn't because there's no way in hell we can get half the stuff anyways.
Yeah, no.
You can take, I'll just use Central America as an example. Central America, you look all the different groupings of the fish, you have what I call the water cows. And that's all your Vieja types, your Cinecalichthes types, those big, giant, round fish. They look like giant panfish. Black belt is a perfect example, or Melanurus, or any of those type of cortais and so forth. They are the big, dopey, can handle abuse from anybody, and they swim, but they're so big that nobody's going to pick on them. Then you have your Parachromis, that's your jaguars, your dovies, any of that group. Those are all either ambush or cruise predators. So they're kind of like northern pike, muskie, walleye, that sort of stuff. And those guys either hide amongst the banks, or they're just strong enough, big enough, mean enough that they just cruise the river, killing everything and eating everything in their path. And then you have, like in South America, you have your Geophagus. Well, in Central America, you have your Cribiheros types. And those are basically your Geophagus. And they go around and they sift the substrate, and they're always doing different things, looking for different morsels of food, and they don't care what everybody else is doing. Then you have all your firemouth types, your Therichthes groups, and those are your invertebrate pickers. They have a lot of show, but they don't have a lot of strength for fighting. But they go around and they look for little tiny things, and they're picking little tiny things off different things. And then that's your general groupings. And after that, you've got all sorts of real specialized ones, like your riverine, extremely fast water, big, giant, bulbous, muscly heads. I'm not talking the big gibbosities that people are thinking of some of these big, but like tuba, asfraci, irregular. These fish are like bullets. And that's because they have to live in like class 5 rapids. Sorry, your little sponge filter in the corner with your little tiny power head, that's not class 5 rapids. Go and throw a massive power head in the tank. Go and throw like a half horsepower pond pump on that tank and see what changes. I did this in my 750-gallon tank years ago. The company Hydor, who sells those water fans, I don't know what else to call them. They're water pumps, but they call them water fans, and they go between the glass. And they made a number 8 model. I saw it at a show. It was the size of a football. It was huge.
You put that in what size tank?
I put it in my 750-gallon tank, but I'm not kidding. The diameter of the cage was about 6 inches in diameter.
Jeez.
This thing was meant for like public aquarium, but the reason I ordered that specific one is it had a magnet that would go through 3/4-inch glass, and my tank was made out of wood, 3/4-inch plywood. So I could put that pump. That was the only pump that I could mount there, and I mounted it there, and I had Bacortai, which is a very, very large Central American cichlid. It was 16, 18 inches in size. Comes from Guatemala, from Lago Isabel. And when I put that pump on there, none of these fish had ever had that. They had a full wet-dry trickle filter, rain system, and awesome filtration, great oxygen saturation. But when I put that massive pump on there, it threw 16 and 18-inch fish across the tank and into the wall of the other side. But I left it on there to see what would happen. 2 days later, they were all swimming in the current like it didn't exist.
Wow.
It's conditioning. We've gone from going, I think back in the 80s, we had undergravel filters, and then they went from air-driven, and then we went to power heads.
Mm-hmm.
Egg crate on top of the undergravel to stop the fish from digging it up. But those power heads were valuable, valuable tools that kind of disappeared. And then after that, everybody just went to these giant fish rooms with hundreds of tanks with a sponge filter bubbling in the corner.
Yeah, that's it. That's
not the same.
No. Oh, that's amazing. So I got to address like 2 things from this chat over here. So King and Queen Cichlids is here. So did someone say Central Americans? I believe we did. Actually, Biggs did, because I don't talk cichlids. Because I don't do cichlids. I'm learning, but yeah, they're just not my jam.
I sent him a message about 3 weeks ago asking for 20 minutes of his time to go over something. He looked at it, never responded. You should give her $100 just because you never responded, Scott.
Scott's good. Scott's just fine. You leave Scott alone, Biggs. And then Bob Kaler says, awesome content, part 2, ? With the $14.99 super chat. So I wanted to say thank you to both of them. I don't know, if Biggs is down for a part 2, we can do part 2 whenever. It's all on him. He's got to get to a hotel. to talk to people. So
I will help anybody anytime anybody wants. Scott's asked for stuff. I've had a bunch of people who've asked for things. I will help anybody anytime. It's all part of the fun. It's all part of sharing the knowledge. You know, like
yeah, I just like bouncing stuff off your brain because your brain kind of thinks a little different.
My channel gets to the point that, you know, I've got 500,000 subscribers. I'm still going to be exactly the same way. I know it's easy to say that now, but it's like
we're going to have more fish tanks if you get there.
No, I won't be. I won't have more. No, my vision of what I want to do with my channel is vastly different than that. Vastly different.
Bigger.
No,
bigger, better, faster, stronger.
No, I envy my true vision of what I wanted to accomplish with my channel. It evolved differently the very first time before I launched because, and I got to be truthful, the person that started me on this YouTube path is Rachel O'Leary. And she put the seed in my head about a year before. And then eventually, after I was able to wrap my head around it a little bit, I ended up basically going to Rachel O'Leary's and staying at her house. And it was basically Biggs was getting YouTube 1.0. That was the start. And I had to it's like I'm like a toddler. You have to physically show me stuff. And she would show me on her screen how to do this, how to do that. And then I went away and I meekly started my channel and started putting out stuff. But originally we planned on doing 2 channels. I have to move my hand. Everything's backwards. But I had to do 2 channels. We wanted to do 2. One for the farm with the family, and then one was the fish channel. But the family, most of them were younger then, and they didn't really understand it or how to do it, and I didn't have the chance or the time to do 2. So my channel evolved, and it became more not just focused on fish, even though that's the bulk of my audience. It's botanical interest, it's dangerous animals, isopods, whatever I find fascinating in the natural world, I'm putting on my channel. And I hope that the people that follow my channel enjoy the random diversity that comes with it. But what I view doing is, if I want to do a video like that Tiger King tank that I did for fun, I view the idea of going and looking at the tiger barbs and then saying, I wonder what they're like in the wild. And all of a sudden the video stops and then the video starts again and we're in Sumatra. That's what I want to do, like a Discovery Channel type of thing like that, but random and on my terms.
It sounds a lot like you.
Yeah, weird.
I hope you don't ever change that. I love it. I love it. I'm a huge fan. Yeah, Dwayne Kitchell told me to check out your channel. That's how I found you. Was Dwayne Kitchell said, because I was talking to him about my rope fish, and he's like, yeah, you need to go talk to Biggs. And I'm like, who's Biggs?
Weird Canadian.
Who's this guy? And then I turned on your channel, and it was like Fuzzy Cow, and I was like, okay, he's good people. He has a fuzzy cow. It'll be fine.
Okay. Jordanella is here. Jordanella is my friend Kyle from Stonewall, Manitoba, and he says he was almost killed by a tree. Did I miss something?
Were you almost killed by a tree, Biggs?
I don't know. Maybe I've forgotten something. Was I almost killed by a tree? I am an extremely. My wife knows that I go to the hospital all the time. I used to when I lived on my own. When I kept a lot of the snakes and everything like that, I kept venomous snakes for years and stuff.
Of course you would.
A lot of stuff over the years. I went to the hospital one time, and when you get your chart, they give you your little wristband. They imprint all the stuff on your wristband, and then they imprint everything on this little blue card. In Canada, at least they do. And this little blue card was looked like the shape of a credit card, but it was all the same information that was on your wristband. At the end,
we don't get those here.
You do? Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
No, we don't get the card. We get a wristband.
No, we don't get the card. Nobody normally gets the card. But the thing that was so funny, after the nurse just handed me the card, and she says, "You'll just hand us this every time you come." Because I was there so frequent.
They made you a speedy card?
I called it my frequent customer card.
Oh, that's so funny.
Oh,
all right, we got.
Sorry, go ahead.
GRB Aquatics. Did you see his question?
Yeah. Do you have any tips for breeding Haplarchus psittacus? Now, I've bred psittacus. I was one of the few people that bred them years and years ago. I bred them in my 750, and then I was successful as well breeding them in the 180-gallon tank. But the real trick was in Winnipeg, the water source. And if anybody knows Mr. Jim Cummings, he's from Winnipeg. He's a dear friend of ours. He's the standard of excellence for fish keeping and breeding up where we are. And Winnipeg water is excellent for breeding almost everything. However, with something like Siticum and a lot of the weird Santana Perkids and stuff like that, you're going to have to get an RO system. And what I did to breed the Siticum successfully is I literally just shut off the automatic water changer, that was using the water mains, the city water. And I just rerouted my RO discharge, my RO water, the good water coming from the RO, not the discharge, to the 750-gallon tank. And I just let it run permanently. And what it did is it slowly, gradually changed the chemistry, slowly, gradually lowered the pH, the hardness, everything in that system. I just made sure in that system that I didn't have anything that was a calciferous buffer. Like I didn't have any dolomitic substrate or coral or oyster shells or any of that sort of stuff that a lot of people often have and forget. Because RO water is extremely volatile. I have a video coming out on RO water and understanding the chemistry behind it. But RO water it's dangerous it's dangerous to living cells unless you buffer it. And buffering doesn't mean it just means you have to put something in it to stabilize it.
Right.
But RO is going to be your absolute success point for that.
I've been learning RO working at Aquatic Arts. That's one of the things that I've been learning because I know nothing about RO water because I have hard well water and I don't need it my Africans love it. I don't have a problem with that. Oddballs kind of love hard water. So, but I have to learn it because we're using it at Aquatic Arts. And
right?
And there's a lot of different, like we're using 2 different types of buffers for like inverts versus fish. You know what I'm saying? So it's like an alkaline or what is it? It's a phosphorus buffer or a carbon-based buffer. I don't know. I'm learning it. It's crazy. It's crazy. But I'm hoping at the end of it, I will be smart enough to do saltwater and I can get a mantis shrimp.
I love mantis shrimp.
Another pet.
There's literally only 2 things saltwater that I would keep. And I said to Sandy one day, I says, can you get these? And she said, yeah, I can get those. Sorry, 3. I get that. And when I went down there the last time, she sent me a note, says, is there anything you want me to order? Because she can order from everywhere in the world. Is there anything you want me to order to have here when you're here? And I gave her a very short list. They were candiru.
Oh my gosh.
and the giant saltwater isopod. That she did get the candiru, but for some reason there was a miscommunication with the staff and they got sold the day before I arrived.
Oh, man.
The isopod is seasonal in the way the areas that it's found. But if I were to start up a saltwater tank, it'd be a giant isopod. I would do that just because they look like an alien.
Yeah.
Alien World Aquatics is on. He could agree with that. There's nothing on our planet, I think, that looks more like an alien than the giant isopod.
Octopus.
Blue ring octopus. Only the blue ring octopus, because we had those back in the day at one of the pet stores. And it's also one of the most dangerous animals on our planet. So, of course.
And it's an alien. Literal alien.
Yep. And what would be the other one would be a mantis shrimp. I love that. I just love the fact that it's just
love mantis shrimp. It's the only thing that's gonna make me go saltwater. And all the salties at the conventions make fun of me because it's like a very basic level like saltwater. It's not rare, it's not hard to keep, it's not cool at all in the saltwater game. And I also really love pulsing xenia, which is basically a trash coral to them. They're like, yeah, no, you don't. That's not worth anything. That's not cool. Or
that is.
It's like a coral.
Okay.
And it goes like this. But it's like not one of the rare ones or the cool ones. So all the salties, when I tell them I want a giant saltwater tank for a mantis shrimp and some pulsing xenia, they're like, that's so lame.
Well,
I'm like, well, what do you know about freshwater? Nothing? Oh, that's what I thought.
Well, there's also, is it called the pistol shrimp? Or there's one of these shrimps that has one claw that is one of the fastest moving things, an organic thing in the world. It moves its claw so fast.
That's a mantis shrimp.
Is it mantis shrimp?
The mantis shrimp's punch is so fast that it like literally creates like a sonic, like a boom. Like you can see it displace water and it hits so fast that like it's insane. It's
okay,
got the
my wife.
hit.
When I'm wrong and I've done something wrong and my wife's mad at me, she hits me. So her new nickname is Mantis Shrimp.
They're so cool. You can I'm a fan. Huge fan. Anyways, okay, so it's been like an hour. I think we need to let Biggs go. Maybe we'll do a part 2.
Anytime.
At some point. We'll talk about it. We'll figure out a time. If you're looking for some fish or some plants, check out aquaticarts.com. There's a coupon code in the description. Use my coupon code because it tells people that, or it tells my work that I actually, people care that I say things online. Because I didn't start my YouTube channel to be educational. I just started it so I could document my rope fish. And then I found friends. So, like, tell my friends. Anyways, Biggs is my friend sometimes. All right, so if nobody else has any more questions, I gotta go to bed because I gotta work in the morning, and I think Biggs has, like, I don't know, something to do, right,
No,
Biggs?
it's
No?
only 8:10 where I am.
Oh, well, it's like 10 o'clock here.
I bought a 24-pack, so I'm good.
Oh, Biggs has many, many more beers to drink, and I'm sure people. Are you like where are you? Are you at a convention, like a work thing?
No, I travel. My job is I'm a sales manager for a company that sells pet and veterinary supplies. So I deal with every single pet store and vet clinic roughly within my territory. And my territory is the province of Manitoba, the province of Saskatchewan, one to the west, and then I also go to the east, half of the province to the east. The only problem being is our population density is nowhere near what any of the states is. So for me, the next major city from Winnipeg, where I live 30 minutes east of that, is a 6-hour drive to Regina, Saskatchewan, and that's where I am. And one of my large accounts is here. So I come here every 2 weeks to 3 weeks to service that account. But with COVID and the upsurge and everything going on right now, I probably have 30 accounts in this area, but I generally only go and see about 3 of them because most of it was we're all working from home. So I just got to be safe. Everybody out there, make sure you're staying safe. I also want to make certain that we acknowledge any of your moderators. Thank you for being here. We wouldn't be able to do this without you.
Yep, Candy, Mod God's in there, Bob Kaler, OG Squad, they're all holding it down. JH Aquatics, he's in here. Sarah's in here, Lady LRB, she's bagging fish over at Lucas's house because it's shipping night, and I am here talking to you instead of there bagging fish. So,
well, it's been an
good job, Sarah.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Haley. Thank you very much for having me. I'll do it anytime you want.
Biggs.
I can accommodate it. I'm here for you.
Right on. Well, we'll definitely come up with a part 2. We'll figure out some other topic to not talk about on YouTube for an hour, right?
We'll just sit here and drink. That's all that matters.
Coffee, beer, Jack and Coke, whatever you want to do, I'm down. All right. You guys stay fishy or whatever they say on YouTube. Live your best life. That whole thing. And I will talk to you guys later. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll do it again soon. Thanks, Biggs.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.